you've shot a number of different projects. If someone has actually never seen anything you've done before, what is the first thing you'd like them watching and why?
Good question. I have to say, I think Belfast is one of my favourite films I've made. So I'd say, why don't you start at what I consider maybe my best work and then work your way down.
Yeah, that turned out okay. You know, um, so I spoke to Ben recently for the Meg 2, and he sounded like he had such a blast, and he told me a great story about why he wanted to work with you. How much fun did you have making the Meg sequel?
Oh, it was an absolute blast. Ben is a fantastic, fantastic filmmaker, and he was the reason why I wanted to participate. I've always loved his films, and he's a true filmmaker. It was a joy to make with him.
Yeah, I also love the shot you guys did of the inside of the shark biting down with the people coming into the mouth. I made Ben break down how you guys shot that.
Yes, that was his shot. He definitely wanted that in the film. He's got a great sense of humor. He's got a great sense of terror and a great sense of humor.
Jumping into so you and Kenneth started working together on Sleuth, and you couldn't have known when you made that project that it was going to lead to this collaboration of, I think, 7 movies. So when did you? My bad. So when did you realize? When you were making Sleuth, oh wait, maybe he really likes me for this job.
Oh no, Ken is always not just with me, but with everyone. He's very generous with his. He's a generous soul, so he's generous with his compliments. He's genuinely appreciative of every department and every collaborator he's with, and that I think is quite infectious. There's an old-fashioned chivalry that Kenneth has that it makes you want to be the best. You know on set you just want to behave in a polite manner, in a professional manner, and to just work with passion. And that's what I got in the first collaboration with Ken, and that's what I got on the last collaboration. I basically look at every film as if it's the first and last film I will do with any director. It doesn't matter whether it's someone I've worked with a lot, and certainly with Ken, I kind of feel like you have to just not take the relationship for granted and be a great communicator. Communication is the best form of kind of both collaboration and friendship.
What were actually some of the unique challenges you ran into on making a Haunting versus, say, the first 2 in the trilogy?
Well, I think one of the things about Haunting in Venice is it's a far more intimate story. One of the things that are characteristic of a Christie novel and a story that she lived and traveled in a time when travel was rare and expensive, and she basically made her readers travel the world with her, and subsequently within that travel and what that does, I think, is just opens those receptors. When you read those kinds of stories, you're kind of in awe in this adventure, and all of a sudden she just takes it all the way back down to this very elemental human story about the human condition. You know, it's a dramatic moment, a cathartic moment of a crime, and you live through the crime and punishment in her writing, and you have a cathartic moment at the end. I think in this particular case, which is a lesser known story, it's the location, although extremely important in our case, was not so much about the opening the receptors of travel and openness, etc., and making you kind of like, in a way, the exuberance of life then brought down to these base levels. You're already in a kind of dark post-war period where things are already kind of, there's none of that exuberance to begin with. So it becomes a different type of a story, and it becomes a story that's intimately about the human condition, and it becomes a horror story in that the crime committed is an incomprehensibly terrible crime, and it haunts both our protagonist, Poirot. It haunts the people involved around it. And ultimately it haunts the audience that experience this tragedy and this crime.
One of the things is the first two films in the trilogy you shot on 70 millimeter, and this film you shot digitally. Can you talk about why you switched to digital for this film?
There were a lot of photographic characteristics that we wanted to maintain in the Poirot films. One was a certain kind of clarity. The other is a sense of depth of field. Now, we wanted to shoot this in a very dark way, and both film and digital so far has been limited not much more than the 800 ASA range. And when you wanted to shoot a film in low light levels with candlelight and authentic lighting fixtures of a particular time period, you usually, I think in the past, from the days of Barry Lyndon onwards, even to modern day films, you'd have to rely on using a faster lens. And by using a faster lens, an f-stop of say T1, famously on Barry Lyndon, or 1.4 on most low light level films, you have very little depth of field, and that depth of field comes into play where you only see one eye in focus at any one given time, and you're constantly making decisions in camera about which eye you're going to focus on. One of the things that I think makes the intimacy of the portraiture that we have used on previous Poirot films is that we work at a slightly higher depth of field than most films. T4, not Citizen Kane levels, but just enough that a face and its features are all in focus. And so we wanted to shoot with a large format lens camera system that was in the highest sensitivity to light, and that was the Sony Venice 2. And those photographic elements were more important than the analog versus digital, that we were able to shoot at low light levels, but with a decent or our preferred depth of field. And those were the choices behind shooting this with a digital camera.
I always wonder, I mean, listen, I think Kubrick's a god, and the films that he's made are so incredible, and I just always think about what would he have done being able to use digital cameras, and would he have embraced them, or would he have shunned them the way, for example, Nolan likes to shoot everything on film, and he, you know what I mean? It's because you have so many more choices when you're shooting digital, like you just said. You can shoot in these crazy low light situations. For example, I think he used natural, just like candlelight to light certain things.
Yes, but like I said, I think it's not just that. It's there are other photographic attributes. I mean, I can't speak for Kubrick. He had such an individual approach. I think he did everything as was kind of as he saw fit in a way. And I feel like I wouldn't like to be restricted by kind of being put into this idea that I would only use one camera or one set of lenses. I've changed systems and lenses according to the kind of project's needs and my own interpretation at all time. And I think that's important, that you don't give the important aspect of things. And this is we have to thank in a way Anthony Dodd Mantle and for that kind of celebration of whatever camera creates that intimate story. To me, he has done great things in that, and he should be praised for that, because he has pushed for, and he's a great analog film cinematographer as well. I think if you're as well versed as someone like Anthony, then you're groundbreaking in that you're using different formats, and he has in many ways liberated filmmaking from those kind of dogmas.
One of the things is you guys shot on a lot of practical sets, and then you went to Venice for the exteriors. What was that like coming up with, like shooting on set and then going to exteriors? Do you prefer something like that, or would you rather do the exteriors first and then do the interior, or does that not make a difference?
In our particular case, because we shot linearly in a way, story-wise, over kind of a morning through to an afternoon, a night, and then it really didn't make a difference. We really wanted to shoot things in. The majority of the story happens chronologically in terms of how we shot it on stage anyway. So I think more for us, it would be and it's a big deal for Kenneth, is to be able to shoot chronologically. That keeps you in rhythm with the story as you're progressing in a way. And it didn't interrupt our filmmaking in a great deal, I'd say.
Before I run out of time with you, I'm also a huge fan of Tim Burton, and I wanted to know what it was like getting the phone call from him to possibly shoot a sequel that I'm very excited for.
Well, it's a dream project, and one I'm very proud of. We still haven't finished, but hopefully we kind of have done something special there as well, and yes, I can't wait for that to be ready as well. That would be my. So that's you've got two films for Halloween this year and next year to look forward to that I've shot.
Exactly. One of the things though about the first film is it's so great the way it was shot using practical everything. And I'm just curious, before you start on a sequel to that film, are you rewatching the first one to sort of see what, you know what I mean? Because I heard you guys are doing a lot of the same stuff that was done on the first film.
Yes, we certainly are shooting things in camera and for real. And that's part of the charm. I mean, he's a great filmmaker in that respect. And although he's he's both a visionary and a very classical filmmaker at the same time. And that was, we did a lot of that on Haunting in Venice as well. What you see in the film is very much in camera. Yes, that's in a way I think I enjoyed both that aspect of the filmmaking of these last two films I've made. I think I've enjoyed immensely that reliance on practical techniques, and I think you get a very, very different kind of performance out of actors, and you get a very when things are done in camera, and I think you get a very different audience reaction out of in-camera effects.
Oh,
those things, for example, are far more important than whether something is digital or analog. It's the authenticity of the experience, I think, that is often kind of the most impactful aspect of filmmaking.
I could not agree with you more. When I see something that's done on green screen, it's let's just say it takes me out. And when it looks like someone's standing in an actual building, and because the sets that you guys built for Haunting are, they're great, and it just adds so much.
Yeah.
On that note, I got to stop with you. I'm just going to say I am a fan of your work. Thank you for giving me your time, and I hope the film's a huge hit.
Thank you, Steve. It's lovely talking to you.
Have a fantastic day. Good luck with the rest of your speed dating.
Thank you.